after that. But for the time being, we have a banger of a matchup. We have Shopify Rebellion going up against Invictus Gaming. And once again, this is going to be a very important matchup here for for all of these teams, to be honest, because we only have 2 weeks left. We have 2 weeks left of the round robin group stage. That's not a lot of time here for these teams to really solidify their rankings. And Shopify Rebellion, they're on the brink. They're on the cusp. They are number 7. They are ranked 7th place right now, and top 7 do make it into the playoffs. So it is very important, not just for Shopify to win this series to solidify themselves, but also to have a really good result as well, a really good point advantage to make sure if there's any kind of tie that they're able to break that tie and make sure they're able to, again, make it into the upper echelons here of WTL. Meanwhile, Invictus Gaming, they can't make it out. Feels bad, man, but there has to be some team on the bottom of the standings, and it happens to be Invictus Gaming. They have been struggling quite a lot this season, and they have been unable to take a win. They've been unable to put a point on the board. In saying that, if they do somehow take down either Shopify or their opposing team next week, that's going to be really detrimental for their opposing team. As we're diving into our first matchup and spawning in the top right hand corner, we have for IG MacSed. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner for Shopify Rebellion, we have Lambo. Vámonos, papi, vámonos. Here we are. MacSed just a little bit tired. You know, it's been a long day. It's having a bit of a yawn. Just getting ready for his match. And again, as I mentioned before, Invictus Gaming, they're playing this for pride. They're playing this also to potentially knock down their opposing teams. They can be the reason why Shopify doesn't make it into the playoffs, which would be wild. But again, this is still going to be an uphill battle. MacSed is a phenomenal player. He can definitely punch up. He is arguably the ace player of Invictus Gaming. So if anyone on their team were to bring down Lambo, it would be MacSed. And we have seen Lambo fall to some of these Chinese Protoss players before. I bring us back to Firefly. Firefly, mate. the things that I can say about Firefly, papi. He did so well. He styled all over Lambo a couple of weeks ago. Can MacSed do the same? To be fair, Firefly is a little bit more daring. He's a little bit more adventurous, aggressive. Can't believe my eyes. Every time I see him, it's just wild. It's that starving camel factor, you know? And MacSed, unfortunately, is not a starving camel, so he won't have that boost given to him. He has to bring it all out from within. And I want to see it all come out, papi. Oh, let's go. Well, as Lambo, of course, is a very powerful opponent. He's a very prepared player as well. More often than not, he comes into these series ahead of times with a plan, with a solid game plan here to bring down his opponent. I do think that's Lambo's strength, and I do think in a league like World Team League, like Lambo is at his strongest here, where he has days ahead of time to study his opponent, to come in ahead of time knowing the map as well and being prepared for it. So yeah, we'll see if he does come out with something a little bit more quirky. I would appreciate that. I do think that if he kind of gives the reins over to MacSed, that's where he can be at a bit of an advantage, and he can dictate the pace of the game and even do something a little bit more quirky. As we do have a Stargate opener from our Protoss player, as to be expected, nothing too crazy so far. As he takes a bit of a swig from that thermos, the tumbler even. Love to see it. Hydrate everyone. Hydrate hydras, stretch your roaches, and don't forget to massage your marines. And marinate your marauders. I'm trying to come up with new ones. Maybe Steel Mold can help with that. Maybe Kuro can as well. I don't like No Clone's been trying to put. He's been trying to push. There's a subscriber in the chat who's been trying to push his agenda, and he's been really harping on railing your roaches, and that's just too much. that's just you're an animal, papi. We're not railing nothing, papi. Shaking my head. But speaking of railing, we do have the first Oracle diving on out. Is going to be giving some high ground vision, and this Overlord is going to get railed out of the map. is going to get knocked out. Is going to go down. Likewise, Lambo has eyes on the would-be third base and is going to be forcing a bit of a cancel or delaying the third even by getting a snipe on that probe. So again, really nicely timed here by Lambo. He dives on that probe. He wants the probe and he is going to get it as well. A lot of value already. He tries to dive into the main base for a scout, but no, he is denied entry. Quick warp in by MacSed. He at least does avoid that much more disaster, but already a great start here for Lambo. And we see a pretty standard follow-up from MacSed. It is going to be the Oracle opener into the Twilight Council, into Forge, into +1, into, I imagine, Blink Stalkers. Oh my god, once again, the Lings do rock up and another probe goes down. That's 3 probes here at the third base, and MacSed is being punished so hard here for delaying his warp-ins or skipping his warp-ins as well. He's been trying to cut some corners. The Overlord survives? No shot, Papi. The Overlord somehow does make it out alive as well. MacSed just hasn't been able to get too much value at all so far, and I do worry for him. Now, he actually, because he skipped his warp-ins, he actually went for a faster robo behind this. We have Charge instead of Blink. He's looking a little bit more committed, and it's going to have to be because the Lings, they rock back up. No shield battery. No support, no Oracle, and Adept goes down. This is getting out of hand. This is just too much damage. This is more than whatever should be dealt here at the third base. As the Adept goes down, the base is under threat. The Oracle is forced to turn back around. This is also the danger. I didn't really get to mention too much, but we skipped out on the Oracles. We have one, but only one. And because we only have one, we have a hard time dealing with these things. Ideally, you have one active on the map, harassing, scouting, and forcing the Zerg player to respond. Meanwhile, you have a second, even a third Oracle back at home to make sure that your base is safe and sound. And MacSed is being punished so hard for cutting those corners. Now, ideally, it's worth it, right? Ideally, we're cutting these corners so that we can hit a crisper timing here with Charge. We have a Prism already moving out. This is looking very committed here from MacSed, especially because he's been just losing so much over the course of this game. He has to do something across the map. Zealots this time are in position to defend. We're actually going to be taking up into a Robotics Bay. That Prism across the map is going to be warping in some High Templar, so we're going for some late Archon harass, which can do really well if only we didn't sustain so many losses earlier. So there's a lot riding on the shoulders here on these Archons. They got to do a lot of damage, whether it's kill drones, pick off queens, get overlords, whatever it need be, just get something done. And we're going to get one overlord, which is nice, but the roaches have arrived. Oh my god, we even have Overlord speed on the way here from Lambo. We'll see if he has something special in store for that. We have a lot of queens on the way. Yep, there we go. Because Overlord speed was me. I love this. Because Overlord speed is researched, we're setting up a creep highway. The queens are welding across the map. Lambo, he's done so much damage already throughout the course of this game. He wants to snowball. He wants to end the game here and now. He's cutting workers at 70 and pushing out with queens and with roaches. MacSed does see this coming ahead of time, but after such a rocky start, he doesn't have that much to defend. He does have a stasis. He does have a couple of Archons. He has an Immortal as well. He has a standing army, but not too many shield batteries, not too much stack defense. So the Roach is just going to be looking to even dive into the natural as well. Charge has finished, +1 as well. We have a Disruptor on the way. The first Nova goes up. Ooh, and a pretty damn good connection on those Roaches on a Queen as well. A good start here from MacSed. Does he have another Nova in him though? As another Stasis Trap goes off, the majority of the army here of Lambo is caught in that Stasis. This is a disastrous start, by the way, and MacSed is going to be able to force this back. Oh my god, I didn't think he would be able to, but with a really good Nova, with a Stasis Trap as well, MacSed is shutting this down. Now, he's overextending a little bit. I'm concerned as we do have the Nova. Oh my god, the timing! He does land another massive Nova on the Roaches. I worry that he was overextending, but look at that, a hot juggling, the hot Warp Prism Micro. He does save that Archon. Only one. The second Archon did go down there towards the end, but this was the miracle defense that MacSed needed. To be fair, he's still behind. MacSed is still in a rough position, but by all means, like, he should be dead right now. Like, he has no right to life. Based on the initial opener, based on everything going wrong for him. But, like, again, the Novas were perfect. The Stasis was perfect as well. With that Lambo, he backs off. He's going to try and drone up. His worker count is still in the dumps. He's got a lot of droning to do, and he's taking up into lurkers, which I appreciate. So Lambo, he's going to be skipping out on upgrades. He's going to be skipping out on Even, he even delayed his 4th base, delayed a macro hatchery. He's cutting corners here to rush into this lurker then as quickly as possible. Hive is on the way as well. Now we're getting into those upgrades, but a little bit later. And these lurkers are paramount. Why? Because so many roaches died. Look at the army here of MacSed. He's got a good disruptor count. He's got a good Archon count. His army's actually getting pretty deathbally. It's getting pretty terrifying. So lurkers are going to be keeping Lambo alive. Not just lurkers, the mobility of his army as well. Lambo still has the supply advantage. That's a kill, not a cancel. 400 minerals down the drain. MacSed is having a hard time keeping up here because of his lower economy, because of the start of the game, obviously. He just doesn't have a lot of supply to work with. He's having a hard time splitting off his army, defending his 3rd and his 4th at the same time. He's trying, though. My god, is he trying. But already a kill in that 4th is a big move here from Lambo. Because of that, he has so much breathing room. We do see MacSed splitting off more of these forces, though, and he is going to be able to buy some breathing room. Ideally, get enough time to build up this 4th base. But by the time he gets his 4th up and running, Lambo already has a better army. Lurkers are being morphed in. Vipers are on the way. Lurker upgrades, seismic spines, all of this is in production. Again, we're lacking in the Evo chamber upgrades, of course, but that doesn't matter as much right now, just because of other advantages that we do have. And yeah, MacSed, what can he do at this point? I do think that there's a window that he has to hit, but I feel like that window is already closed. Like, the lurkers have already arrived. There's a lot of power in these disruptors, though. If he can somehow connect these purification overs on the lurkers, then he can break through, and he can maybe even take down a base. Oh, he's pushing on to creep. Nova does go off, connects on one of the morphing in lurkers, but the Vipers arrive, and they shut down that first disruptor. That's the problem here. Because of the tech, because of the Viper specifically, the one thing that is keeping MacSed alive in this game, which is the disruptor, is suddenly rendered inert. There is no counterplay against the Vipers. There's no High Templar for feedback. There's no Blink Stalkers either. Blink still on the way. He's got Archons, but because of the low range, the low attack range of Archons, like, they can't really zone away these Vipers. There's still no way to stop him. Lambo has full control, and as a result, MacSed has to back off. And Lambo is getting away with even more upgrades. He's finally getting into, 1-1, 2-2 on the horizon, adaptive talents. We have Hydra range. We're throwing down a Spire as well. So just in case MacSed decides to tech up into Sky Toss, Lambo will have an answer to that as well. But, another Stage Trap does go off on Lings more than anything. Here we go, the Novas go off as well, and some pretty good connections on those Purification Novas. Unfortunately, it takes 2 Novas to kill a Lurker, and look at how low those Lurkers are. So many of them are in the red, so many of them are in the orange as well. If only we had a couple more Novas, we could actually clean up this army. Alas, MacSed gives up on the 4th, once again contained to 3 bases. Oh my god, a couple more Disruptors do go down here to those spines. Now, MacSed does have a good army supply. That's the one thing that he has right now, is that his army supply is pretty comparable to Lambo. And what that means is that if MacSed takes a really good fight, and here, for example, he shaves off a couple of lurkers, but if he does take a really good fight, then he can snowball out of control. He's chasing this army into more lurkers, so he has to be very careful with his army movement, as once again, he's trying to dive on top of this. If he does take one really good fight, once again, 2 more lurkers go down. A little bit of miscontrol there by Lambo. We have a massive warping of Zealots into the main base. The distraction is real. Nova's going to be going up, connecting with the roaches. But we were very trigger happy. No more Purification Novas are remaining. We have to wait a little bit longer. We do have the feedback on the Viper. And MacSed, if he's able to break this army, he can take down the base. But no, the reinforcements are just far too much. MacSed is being forced back. MacSed did so well. Like, honestly, his army control was pretty damn good here. Is getting a lot of value out of the storms, the feedbacks, the Purification Novas. Unfortunately, MacSed is all in. Like, he doesn't have an economy behind this. He doesn't have a 4th base. And he's being called out. We have the Surrounder. The Disruptors are all on their own. And even though we have some half-decent shots going off, everything is going down. And that was the lifeline that was keeping MacSed in this game. Without it, he doesn't have much left. He's got a handful of Zealots. He's got a handful of High Templar with Storms. They're all going to be morphed into Archons as we speak. MacSed is stuck with this low-tech army. And against Lurkers, this just isn't good enough. If only he did have a 4th base up and running behind this, then he could tech up even further. He can head towards Skytoss if he wanted to, or even have a more robust ground army with more disruptors with even Colossi. But GG gets called, and Lambo will take game number 1. GG. But it wasn't the easiest game. I'll be honest, you know, like there were moments there where MacSed was controlling his army better than Lambo. It's just the timing, the crisp timing that Lambo hits. Not just that, but earlier on, Lambo was, in a way, punishing MacSed for cutting some corners, for skipping out on the 2nd Oracle, the 3rd Oracle, the Adept Warpins. I should probably focus and emphasize this point a little bit more, but MacSed was so greedy at the start of that game. Like he was cutting a lot of corners. He was it was illegal. It was illegal what MacSed was doing, and Lambo punished him for it. You know, he put him in jail, put him behind bars where he belongs. At least until he makes another Oracle. That's the thing, you know. Again, there's a reason why when you see these pro players go for a Stargate opener into Oracles, there's more than one, you know, typically. Or if there isn't more than one, like there are some players that do kind of cut corners. That Oracle is kept defensively, you know. It's either kept defensively or there's no 3rd base, because otherwise, how do you hold on to the 3rd? Ooh. And here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the Chinese Protoss player representing Invictus Gaming. It is MacSed. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent for Shopify Rebellion, Lambo. Let's go. Let's go. All right, so I imagine, especially because we're on a larger map, Max said he wants more room, he wants more breathing room, he wants Lambo to back the hell off and let him expand. Max said he just wants a 3rd base, he just wants a 4th base as well, he just wants some economy going, and Max had just had a really rough start in game number 1. I'm sure he will be adapting, I'm sure he will be switching things up here in game number 2, respecting his opponent quite a bit more, or just more aware that Lambo is willing to be aggressive. Oh, bless you. I don't know if you saw Lambo. He didn't just sneeze. He sneezed and his whole body shook. It was crazy. Gesundheit. Gesundheit. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, we are getting into game number 2 at this point, and we'll see what MacSed has to offer here. It isn't just, you know, it isn't just Ancient Cistern again. It's his map of choice, so I'm sure he has something more dedicated in store for us here on this larger map. Whether it's trying to go into that charged out style that we saw earlier, he could go for a more defensive style and go for still Blink Stalkers, of course, +1 on Blink Stalker, but he can go for a double Robo Colossus production instead, be a little more defensive, skip out of Warpins, but just focus on just building up this death ball of an army before moving out with either 2 or 4 Colossi. There are some really strong power spikes available for the Protoss if they do go for that heavy Robo style. Outside of that, we could see an all-in. We could see like a 3-base 9-gate all-in, which Hero does favor on Ancient Cistern. He does it quite a bit to hit the 3rd or even 4th base, depending on how greedy the Zerg or how economic the Zerg player had been. I've seen Hero definitely kill many a Zerg on Ancient Cistern with those 3-base all-ins, whether players like Dark, players like Solar. But as much as I bring up all this aggression, I don't think that's the kind of player that MacSed is. We talk about this all the time. MacSed is a little bit more mellow in ways, you know, he's less of one willing to go for a proxy, for example, or really be in your face. Speaking of being in your face, shout out to the sponsors. Shout out to Doyu, Hypergriff, TGI Fridays, Kaido, and Rio de Janeiro. Without these lovely, beautiful sponsors, we wouldn't be here casting WTL. We'd probably be casting something else, actually. Fun fact, OSC King of the Hill, we were offered to cast OSC King of the Hill tonight, and unfortunately we couldn't, because we typically cast WTL. You know, our priorities are here with World Team League. Hopefully we're able to cast an OSC King of the Hill maybe next week or in the coming weeks. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I'm sure we'll find something to cast if we weren't casting WTL. But regardless, shout out to the sponsors. Gracias. Para la galera. All that good stuff. As Lambo is out here once again keeping an eye on things. We have quite a delayed 3rd or at least Lambo is confirming that with these things. Once again, it was a Stargate opener, and here we go. We do see this time MacSed ferrying this probe across the links. They want the probe, though. They do get us around, and once again, the probe goes down. Oh, Lambo delaying that third base feels good, as the Zerg player, definitely, and MacSed is going to finally be able to throw down that third. Once again, MacSed, I have to wonder, I guess this is just how he prefers to play things out. He has stopped Stargate production. No more Oracles. Very quickly, he's taking up into a Twilight Council, a Forge, and a Robo all at the same time. How can he afford all this? Well, because he's skipping out on the Oracles. Thankfully, this time, the Oracle is staying back at home. He isn't moving out with it, but that's the double-edged sword, right? Because this time he's staying at home, that means he has that much less scouting information. And as we saw last game, Lambo is willing to cut workers. He's willing to go all in. He's willing to, like, how was it for the boys? Water the queens. It's the Zerg equivalent, I guess. You know, send the queens across the map, set up that creep highway, and be aggressive. I'm not saying that's what Lambo's going to do this game, but he's just shown that he's willing to be aggressive and willing to hit these timings. So, yeah, you can't, you know, choosing not to scout Lambo and keeping an eye on the drone count and the base count and the tech is a bold move. It's a bold move. It's a risky move. But MacSed, you know, he's one to live life on the edge, at least against Lambo. Behind this, there's that Temple Archives, there's that Prism on the way, Charge and +1. So again, this is the exact same build that MacSed went for in game number 1, except obviously a little bit more of a defensive outlook here, especially with his army movement and with his positioning. Still no shield battery at this base, by the way. There we go. Shield battery just now going to be thrown down, but this is delayed. It doesn't actually go down. Probes are being focused instead. Oh, good damage done here by Lambo. Once again, punishing MacSed for cutting corners, punishing him for not having that shield battery, for not being ready defensively back at home. Meanwhile, we have some counter aggression. A couple of adepts, they do shade on in, and hey, 2 adepts can one-shot a drone, and they managed to get 3 more workers. Not too bad here from MacSed. A great way not just to do counter damage, but he also scouts and confirms the roaches of his opponents. So he's got a better idea of the army composition, which is important. Lingbane Hydra is an option. Straight up Lingbane also is actually quite common on Ancient Cistern as well, especially against the more heavy Blinkstalker style. So it is important for MacSed to get a read on what exactly Lambo is up to, what his army is looking like. Meanwhile, there's that Archon drop. So far, denying some creep, applying some pressure here to this 4th base, but the roaches are nearby, the queens as well. The Archons are maybe going to have better luck hunting down Overlords, or just, you know, again, denying some of the creep wherever they can. Zealots are being sent out as well, which is a bold move. Looks like MacSed wants to try to split up the attention, but there aren't that many Zealots. Yeah, they're kind of being thrown away here. Not the biggest loss for MacSed, but a loss nonetheless, as the Zealots are going to be going down. Behind this, MacSed is working on a 2nd Robo, so he's going into double Disruptor production. He could even go into Colossi from here if he so chooses, as he once again tests the waters, but Lambo is in position. He swats the army away, but this Disruptor count is getting higher. And something to bear in mind is that, sure, Lambo, he did do some economic damage earlier. He delayed the 3rd base, but for the most part, MacSed has been able to fare better this game. He has had a better early game than at least the previous game, and as a result, he is much more comfortably teching up into the Disruptors, into soon to be a 4th base as well. Like, MacSed is so much more comfortable here, and yeah, that's going to be terrifying because, again, Lambo didn't have the easiest time last game, as we do force a cancel on the 5th base. Lambo even getting a little bit supply blocked as well. Oh, heavily supply blocked as... Okay, there we go. The Overlords are now finishing up. Lambo just pushing MacSed back, but MacSed, he doesn't want to commit. Again, he's just poking, prodding, testing the waters, waiting for those Disruptors to really kick in. That's... Oh, God. That's a lot of Disruptors, Papi. And bearing in mind that Lambo, he does have a Hive on the way, but I believe there is no Lurker Depth. So Lambo is going for a Lingbane Roach Ravager army, which is a solid army composition, don't get me wrong, but it's an army composition that is much more heavily reliant on positioning, on surround specifically. Lambo can completely shut down the army of MacSed if he's able to get a good angle, if he's able to fight on creep, come in from behind, flank from the side. Again, it's all about that engagement, as this army is designed to trade, it's designed to fight. Meanwhile, we do have it. Bailings rolling out across the map, and Zealots are here to stop them. Not the most efficient trade from MacSed, but he does keep his mineral line alive. The disruptors have been scouted. Lambo thankfully does finish up his hive. He should have Vipers on the way. Vipers should be next up on the horizon, especially considering how many disruptors he's up against. I don't think he saw exactly how many. I think he saw a couple, but he hasn't really gotten a good handle on how much he's up against. And as a result, okay, there we go. We do have 2 Vipers on the way. It's going to take some time, though. The Vipers, they need some time to gather up that energy, to suck on some buildings, and to really be ready for this. So as a result, MacSed has some more time here to round out his army. We have more Immortals on the way, more Charge Lots, more Archons. The 4th base this time isn't killed. If you remember in game 1, there was a kill, not a cancel on the 4th Nexus, but MacSed, he gets his up and running, and he's walling off. Ooh, this is interesting. So even though he's got a really solid ground army, MacSed is actually not in a bad position to transition into Skytoss. If he takes a more defensive posture here, he can definitely do so as the Observer tabs out of the game. Hi, Observer, please. But it's okay, we're back. It's all good. But yeah, he's, because of how like defensive or how solid his defenses are back at home, I wouldn't be opposed to him throwing down some Stargates, but it looks like he's committed to the ground toss. He really wants to make this work with Immortals, with Archons, with Disruptors. Supplies are evening up as well. Lambo is maxed, but this is where I worry again. I mentioned it before. Lambo's army is designed to trade. Ideally, you chip away at this force, and oh my god, never mind. He goes for the surround. We were talking about it, and MacSed, he was not looking. The Baileys, they come in from behind. They surround everything there is, and MacSed's army gets completely swallowed up. The Archons were a little bit too late, and with that, the Disruptor count was reset. We didn't even need the Yoinks. We didn't even need Vipers. That was like the perfect fight for Lambo. He came in from almost every angle. MacSed for a moment just wasn't looking, wasn't paying attention. Now we're good. 5 Disruptors, 5 Archons, 7 Immortals go down in the blink of an eye. And now MacSed, he's in a really rough place. It's not looking good, Papi. So at this point, I do think that probably his only option is to tech up into Skytoss. It's difficult to do so from behind, but it may be his only way, as Lambo is maxed out. He's laying siege upon the 4th base. Unfortunately, MacSed was building up towards this climax of a battle, this climax of an army, and he fell short a little bit. He did fall a little bit short. He wasn't able to live up to what he needed to. I'll leave it at that. As the Bailings, they just run past the Archons, they get into the mineral lines, workers go down left and right, and at this point, it's going to be almost impossible for MacSed to get this 4th base up and running. And the reason why I say that is because Lambo, he's going to keep remaxing and keep throwing his army at this 4th, and eventually it will be broken. I mean, it's already broken. It's just eventually there'll be nothing left. It is becoming a little bit too much. There was a little potential, is what I will say. There was a lot of potential with the army of MacSed. It was looking quite terrifying. I was starting to get worried for Lambo, because if he didn't fight soon, then if a fight went poorly for him, then the game may just end. I was really concerned that if it all came down to one big fight, that Lambo may come out worse for wear, but we saw that MacSed, again, he wasn't quite ready for it. The Nova's going to be going off as well. Decent connection with the Novas, but the Vipers have arrived. Once again, we clean up what little is left of the Protoss, and Lambo is looking to have a really strong start here for his team. GG gets called, and Lambo takes the 2-0 over MacSed. GG, well played. Really solid showing there from Lambo overall. My condolences to MacSed. Again, he clearly did come in with a certain build in store for us, but we were never really able to see it come to fruition. Game 1, he was kind of crippled from the beginning, and to be fair, like, maybe that helped him out because he was fighting so hard in Game 1. He was fighting with so much tenacity with his Disruptors, with his Immortals. Here in Game 2, we had a much more passive kind of like way into the mid game. Sure, Lambo, he was doing a decent amount of damage early on, but for the most part, we kind of eased our way into the mid-game, and MacSed wasn't in the worst position. He had a pretty terrifying army, especially considering he was up against mainly a ground-focused Zerg army that didn't have any lurkers. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to focus on the fight when it did occur, and yeah, I feel like we were robbed. I feel like I wanted to see a more back and forth. I wanted to see the armies clash. It's not quite what we got. Now we're going to be getting into our second game here, and oh boy, it's going to be BreakingGG versus ByuN. ByuN, of course, has been playing all day today. Fun fact, if this is actually our second broadcast of the day. If you weren't here earlier, I mean, we weren't actually live on Twitch. We were live on Africa. There is a premier event on the horizon called the Africa Champions Cup. Africa Champions Cup number 2. Now, as you can tell by the name, it is sponsored by Africa, and because of that, all of the matches, the qualifiers, and the main event are casted on the Africa streaming platform, not on Twitch. So we do have an Africa channel on for the CranKy Ducklings, and that's we were live earlier today. We were casting, and we were featuring a lot of ByuN, and he was looking damn good this morning. Struggled at times. I mean, it was a Korean qualifier, and he went up against some big names. But we had a lot of really good matches. I highly recommend checking out the VODs. I know that Africa isn't the best or isn't the most accessible platform out there. I know people can have issues connecting, but the VODs will be on YouTube. But regardless, we're going to be featuring a different player here in the bottom right-hand corner. For IG, it is BreakingGG. And top left-hand corner, not for the first time today, we have for Shopify Rebellion, ByuN. And we have a 15 hatch opener here from BreakingGG. Interesting, because it's not a 15 hatch. Okay. Was his overlord late? I may have missed it, but he may have accidentally forgotten his overlord. It is still going to be a 16 hatch here from BreakingGG. He did go for a bit of an extractor trick, but again, still a 16 hatch nonetheless. Meanwhile, ByuN is doing the ByuN opener. It is going to be a 2 racks here on the low ground for 3 Reapers, and we've seen this. I mean, we've seen ByuN go for this opener every single TVZ for the past 2 months. Every single Zerg player he goes up against, he goes for this 2 racks opener. And what is scary about it is the follow-up. This can go into a 4 racks, this can go into a 2-1-1, this can go into a 3CC, this can go into a 3 racks 2 base all-in as well. We've seen it all here from ByuN. So that's probably the most difficult thing about this. Of course, he has a lot of map control early on as well, and I don't think I've seen BreakingGG face off against this, so I'm curious to see how he does handle this. Fun fact, we actually casted Ragnarok versus ByuN a couple of hours ago, and Ragnarok completely shut ByuN down. I recommend checking out the VODs. They're gonna be on YouTube at some point. Ragnarok did take down ByuN 2-0. And as you can imagine, in a very Ragnarok fashion. ByuN, he went for a 4 racks every single game, and Ragnarok, he cut workers at 38. He got a fast Evo chamber for +1 carapace, and as he was defending, he threw down a Baneliness, so after he defended the 4 racks, he would Bane bust. He did that 2 games in a row, and with incredible success. To be fair, he was also lucky that ByuN was 4 racksing. If ByuN was going for like a different variation, like a 2-1-1 follow-up or something like that, he would have had better success holding. But yeah, ByuN was a little bit more predictable this morning, and Ragnarok was able to abuse that. But we'll see how BreakingGG responds, because you can see on the production tab, there is that 3rd racks on the way. We'll see if we get a 4th. Meanwhile, the Reapers are dancing with the units. 1 drone does go down. Oh, but a drone for a Reaper. Not the best trade for ByuN. Good overall here for BreakingGG. There it is. It is going to be the 4 racks follow-up from ByuN. This is very potent and very powerful on Neo-Humanity. And I mentioned it earlier, the biggest weakness of a 4 racks is that your factory is delayed. Without Winter Mines, without Hellions, without tanks, a Bane bust is almost a hard count. It's basically a hard counter here to this build by ByuN. But again, BreakingGG, he doesn't know exactly what he's up against. He doesn't know what the follow-up is going to be, and he's still stuck on 2 bases. Is still being contained here to these 2 bases. He hasn't teched up either. It looks like he's trying to get a 3rd base up and running, but the Reapers, they're going to be able... okay. They're going to allow that to get up and running. They dive into the main, and this is important. He goes for a scout, confirming no additional tech. We do get a full surround. Nicely done here by BreakingGG. But again, the follow-up is going to hit like a truck, and I don't know if this Evo chamber is in time. This Evo chamber is a little bit late, so if he wants to go for +1 carapace, which will help against this, by the way, if he wants to go for that, I think it's a little bit too delayed. We also need to keep an eye on the drone count as well of BreakingGG to see if he does over drone or not, because if he does drone up a little bit too much, I'm talking about like past 45 workers, especially on Neo Humanity, then the Zerg player can just die. Boy. The rush distance on this map is very short, as you can imagine. And there we go. +1 carapace is on the way, which I do think is a good reaction. But I do think that this is a little bit delayed. We'll see what it lines up with, because it may kick in time for the counterattack. Like if BreakingGG goes all in behind this and goes for a big Ling Flood and even a Bane Bus, then that carapace will actually help him so much when it comes to breaking the natural. But for the time being, BreakingGG, he's just droning. The Marines have been revealed. BreakingGG is going to be stopping droning here at 42, which I think is pretty good. He brings all his queens to the front lines. Lings are on the way. I believe he has the tools to defend. It's going to come down to his positioning, though. Like, he has to catch ByuN on creep. He needs to surround this army. ByuN is very quick to respond. He's very quick to stutter step, and you can't let him micro too much, as the first queen is going to be going down. The Lings, they do come in from behind. They try to get that surround, but there are not enough Lings. We came in too soon. The second wave of Lings just now comes out, and ByuN does trade more efficiently. He's going to be backing off. There's that Baneling Nest on the way, but BreakingGG is droning. He's not going for a big counterattack. Looks like BreakingGG is going for a more macro-oriented response, which is dangerous because ByuN is back, and BreakingGG has been droning. If he has been droning too much, again, this push could snowball out of control. We need to get an eye on the army here of the Zerg player. The Marines, they do rock up. They do have a stim in them. Queen's going to try and keep up as well. We do back off here. We're trying to muster up as much of a defense as we can. Another queen goes down. Oh, he wants even more. Yeah, ByuN, he just dives on in. He gets a queen. He's going to be able to clean up all these Lings as well. The positioning here, oh god, the reduction of that surface area is insane. Another queen goes down, and this is going to get cleaned up, but this has done so much damage. He didn't just kill 4 queens. He didn't just kill all those Lings. He even forced a trade with those Banelings, which was a little bit unnecessary. The Banelings were wasted on these red health Marines. So overall, a really good trade here by ByuN. BreakingGG, he's not out of this yet, though. Something that he didn't lose is drones. His drone count is still looking pretty good. He lost queens and Lings for the most part. So his economy isn't looking too bad. He's going to be able to saturate his third, saturate his fourth. It's just this is all on a knife's edge, just because ByuN is so aggressive with this. BreakingGG, he has to make sure he has an army ready in time to deal with this. Baneling speed is on the way. More than anything, we need creep. We need creep desperately here to engage, to force back the army, to slow down ByuN. As queens are being rebuilt, macro hatches on the way. And we're going to be cutting workers here at 55. Okay, never mind. We're actually droning up to 60, which I think is okay. I think we can afford to drone up to 60. Oh, but what kind of position is ByuN going to find himself in? The tank has arrived. Medivacs as well, so now every stim isn't going to be killing ByuN. He's going to be able to heal past it. As I say that, there we go. Stim is going to be utilized. Another queen goes down. The Lings try to go for a surround. Oh my god, the target firing on the Banelings. Oh, despite that, though, it looks like there's a little bit too much on the ground. The tank will fall. ByuN does go for a hot pickup. He's going towards the 4. Now, that was a bit of a rough trade for ByuN because he did lose his tank, but he got a queen. Oh, can he get another? He's not going to find another queen. He'll be able to pick up, load up, slip into the main base where queens are waiting for him. The target firing. Oh, can we get that medevac? Oh, we barely cannot. ByuN just keeping BreakingGG busy while back at home. He's taking his third base. He is expanding. He's transitioning. We have our E-base for 1-1. We have an armory soon for 2-2 once 1-1 kicks in. And we are commencing tank production. And ByuN just constantly in the face of his opponent, constantly there to deny any kind of creep here as well. A good tank shot off on those Banelings. BreakingGG wants to try to chase this down. Can he get the tank? Up! Oh, some good connections there from those Banelings. The tank will fall. And BreakingGG, he's trading quite well for himself. Meanwhile, the double drop across the map is going to be hitting that 4th base once again. BreakingGG a little bit late to respond. Another queen goes down. What is that? Queen number 6? 7? 8? I don't want to think about it. Feels queen, man. Feels queen. As we barely have any creeping queens remaining. Lings once again trying to dive on this army. No Banelings, bear that in mind. Only Lings, and this is not an efficient trade for BreakingGG. He's going to clean this up. He gets another tank, to be fair. Oh. BreakingGG snowballing a little bit here. Can he afford this? For the time being, he can. Hydras are on the way as well. I do think the Hydras are a little bit premature. This is really greedy from BreakingGG. He's spending a lot of resources on Hydra speed, on 2-1 as well. Oh boy. But thankfully for BreakingGG, ByuN has a 4th. He has a 4th on the way, which means ByuN is focusing on macroing more than anything. It means that he's not going to go for like an 8 racks or anything like that. So BreakingGG, he's for the most part keeping up right now. He's able to keep up. Link, counter-attack, finding a lot of SCVs. Oh my god. And it looks like we don't have WCS Game Heart, unfortunately, but trust me, I want to say like 5 SCVs went down. There it is. Oh, 6 SCVs going down. Not too bad here from BreakingGG. He does now have a lead. ByuN, though, give him some room, and he is going to be going into some drop play, but the Hydras have arrived. Medevacs is going to have a harder time being active. Yeah, we can see ByuN turtling up back at home instead. Uh-oh. Oh, the misrally! Oh, the medevac did rally back, or did pivot back in the end into those Hydras. I think that was a bit of a mistake from ByuN. We'll be losing that. And BreakingGG, he actually has a lot of breathing room right now. He has the freedom to saturate his bases. He has the freedom to tech up even further. Hopefully, I haven't seen it. Hopefully he has an infestation pit. We should be working towards Hive. That's the big thing that BreakingGG is missing, and hopefully he doesn't neglect it too much. As we have a really solid like lair tech army right now, but we need to tech up into Hive for 3-3. We need to work towards adrenal glands, vipers, lurkers. Pick your poison. And again, BreakingGG, he has the room to do so right now. If he waits a little bit too long, it's possible that he won't be able to, right? It's possible that ByuN will turn the tables, and as the observer does check, no infestation bit. So BreakingGG, he's tunnel visioning a little bit too much. There we go, infestation bit's now on the way, but it is heavily delayed. We'll see if ByuN can take advantage of that. We do see BreakingGG coming in from behind, though. He goes for a full surround. He's getting on top of the tanks. He's getting on top of these Marines as well. Oh my god, the Bailey connections are insane. They don't quite get into the mineral line, but good connections on the Marines themselves. The Hydras are overextending. Can't afford to throw them away. BreakingGG, he has to back off, but that was a good trade. Again, containing ByuN here to 3 bases. He was able to kill, I want to say, 3 tanks. I want to say he dealt a good blow here to the Marines as well. But he has to be careful. Typically, when it comes to these Zerg armies like Lingbane Roach Ravager or Lingbane Hydra as well, these fights can be really costly, like supply-wise, and because we're on Near Humanity, if at any moment one of these fights goes too poorly for BreakingGG, ByuN can just counterattack and win the game. Especially if there isn't a lot of lava behind it. It can take quite some time to rebuild and remax, and yeah, BreakingGG has to be careful not to be too inefficient. Especially on a low worker count. To be fair, he is joining up to 81 at this point. It's a good economy. He gets eyes on the 4th base. Oh, that's a greedy 4th as well. That is not a planetary. That is an orbital. ByuN. Ay, ay, ay. See if he can hold on to it as Lingbane rolls in once again. The tanks in the backline are doing a lot of damage to the Banelings. They cannot find the best connections, but it is going to be enough to break the Marines. Once again, only Hydras remain, and BreakingGG has to be careful not to overextend, but he is going to be holding position here on the low ground, taking down another wave of SCVs. Does, for the most part, preserve his Hydras. There we go, only 10 Hydras have died this game. And BreakingGG is going to be able to rebuild, remax. 3-3 on the way. I don't think we have Adrenal. I think we are missing that at the moment. Shout out to this overlay. No, leave it alone. It was just doing its business. It was just creeping, papi. It wasn't doing anything wrong. Smooch. We do have 3-3 on the way. for both players, to be fair. I don't see Adrenal. There we go. Adrenal just now starts as well. We have a Greater Spire, Vipers. So it looks like BreakingGG isn't taking up into Lurkers, which I think is a wise choice. Lurkers usually aren't good at breaking siege lines. Lurkers are good at becoming siege lines in a way. And they're good at like backstabs with like Nidus Worms, of course. But pushing into tanks and liberators is typically not what you want to do with your lurkers. So going towards Broodlords, I can see the logic behind it. I do agree with it. Meanwhile, we can see ByuN just slowly establishing that fourth base. BreakingGG won't be able to do anything about it. He's going to have to respect ByuN for now. Like, you could say, sure, BreakingGG could roll in with Ling Bane and deny the fourth again. Technically true, but he doesn't have the biggest bank. He doesn't have a large bank behind this. It would also be an anti-timing. Why not wait for 3-3? 3-3 is on the horizon. Wait for the upgrades to kick in before we really do commit to anything. Of course, that does mean that we're going to be allowing ByuN to really fortify himself even more. And in a way, that's a little bit on the fault of BreakingGG for delaying his hive for as long as he did. He definitely could have been a lot more crisper with this 3-3 timing. Definitely could have hit a lot harder with it. As we are just, taking up in a bunch of different directions. We have an Infestation Pit on the way. Sorry, already done. Pathogen Glands on the way. +1 air attack. Oh, that's a kill, not a cancel on that CC. Very nice pick off by BreakingGG. And this center position is looking very vulnerable, specifically with Vipers. Like, we got a lot of tanks, and they feel really close. They feel really bunched up. With good enough Blinding Clouds, I do think that BreakingGG could break the area outside the natural and even force his way into the natural. Before that happens, little BreakingGG, he's just going to rush on forward. Oh, he doesn't get anything, though. He doesn't even get the tank, and this is what I'm worried about. Like, BreakingGG, he's being a little bit too inefficient. He's bleeding out a lot of units here. A lot of Lings, a lot of Banelings, a lot of Hydras are going down. Does find some decent connections here, but you can see BreakingGG's supply plummet. Now, thankfully, he's transitioning. He is changing up his army composition. He's going into Broodlords. He's going into Lurkers. Sorry, not Lurkers. Infestors. Broodlord Infestor. Ah, you love to see it. And ByuN is not out of this. Even though he has lost map control, and he's lost map control for a long time, he's turtling up. He's taking a 5th base. If this 5th gets up and running, ByuN can totally take this game. He's got Ghosts already. He can out-control his opponent. He can try to outmaneuver these Broodlords as well. There we go. A couple of snipes are going to be going down already. 1, 2 Broodlords do fall. Oof. Bane army still going to be threatening this area, though. The Infestors in the backline still waiting to gather up energy for those Fungals. And the Broodlords are forcing their way in. Oh, a massive Fungal on the Ghost as well. ByuN is bleeding out too much. He just wasn't able to establish this 5th base. He tried to, don't get me wrong, but the Broodlords were here just in time. ByuN can still stabilize, but it's going to be an uphill battle at this point. To be fair, there aren't that many Broodlords left. We only have 3 Broodlords remaining. Now we only have 1. Only 1 Broodlord. We do get the Thor. Oh, as another Fungal connects, and we're going to get another 3 Ghosts. Again, really good trades here by BreakingGG. Trades that he can afford. He has a good enough economy. I do wonder if he's maybe oversaturated in some of his bases. I do think that for whatever reason, we actually don't really have too much of a bank. We're spending our money quite a lot here. I guess because we're trading so much, I guess that makes sense. As we should still be committing into Broodlord Infestor. So the power of Zerg in this stage is that they can force a reaction, they can force an army composition, and then tech switch, right? Like if BreakingGG loses an army, he can rebuild it with Hydras and Lurkers, for example. But typically that's best to do if the tank count gets lower. If he's able to cut the tank count, say, in half, then it would be good to stop making Broodlords and go into a more Lingbane Hydra lurker heavy composition. Now, unfortunately, I don't believe there is a lurker den, so he can't go into lurkers per se, but even a more Lingbane Hydra based composition can work wonders. A massive EMP on those infestors. No more fungals are left. And a little bit of a miscontrol or unfortunate unit positioning there from BreakingGG, taking that EMP to the face. He's gonna have to back off, regenerate that energy. Broodlords once again are gonna be threading the army here of his opponent. 2 more bases go down. Oh, and again, oh my god, a money fungal! Every single ghost gets caught! Thankfully for ByuN, he EMP'd earlier, so there was not enough energy for another fungal, but if there was, that may have been game. That may have just been game if we just had one more fungal available. Ay, ay, ay. Ugh. Alas, BreakingGG, he wasn't able to capitalize on that. Regardless, now with a pretty good bank, 2k, taking more bases, denying more bases, or having eyes on it. Again, I would like it if BreakingGG he split up his infestors, like he has like a backup force and a forward force, just to avoid those EMPs. Would be ideal. Meanwhile, we do see ByuN is going to be repositioning some of his army to establish that base on the right-hand side. He's going to get spotted. And Lings are here to clean up these ghosts, but there is no detection. Yeah, Overseers have to be morphed in. And they're not going to be. They are not going to be the infestors. Once again, they try to push on forward, but I believe there was an EMP on those infestors. Not enough energy. And this is scary. If ByuN is able to get that base up and running, if he gets a fresh mining base, I mean, ByuN's already been able to max out. Like, he's going to be able to fight back. He's going to have a lot more longevity in this game. As well as this game has been going for BreakingGG, ByuN still has a more efficient army, but he does once again land another fungal. Oh, the blinding clouds are thrown down, and it looks like here we go. BreakingGG sending everything in. But he's bleeding out a lot of supply. That was not the best move from BreakingGG. He's going to have to back off, lick his wounds, rebuild. He doesn't have the highest drone count either, which is a little bit concerning. He's only got 79 drones. Which would be okay if he had more Broodlord Investor, but he still has a lot of supply invested in Lings and Hydras. This is the problem right now. So you see BreakingGG just getting ready to reposition, maybe even surround these Thors if possible. Unfortunately, the Broodlords are a little bit too far behind. And typically, if we're up against Thors like this, we do need Neural. We need Infestors. I'm not actually sure if we have Neural, to be fair. Oh. This Corruptor is going to be going down. I have to imagine we have Neural, right? There's no way we don't. Or is there? As we have more Infestors in production. Again, ByuN is maxed for the most part. It does mean that he can still, even though he has a worse economy, even though he has a lower bank, ByuN can still take a better fight. That's why you do have to respect this army. This is the power of neo-humanity. Love to see it. Bungle does connect with some of those tanks, at least. But again, the energy on these efficiencies is so low. We're just getting an eye on the units tab, and we don't have that many Broodlords either. Like, the unit composition here of BreakingGG leaves much to be desired, to be honest. We've only got 6 Broodlords. Snipes go off, taking down some of these Corruptors, Vipers. There we go, 10 Broodlords now. The Broodlord count is getting up a little bit higher. Thankfully. Oh, we can see another fungal landing there on some of those ghosts. And that's something that we do have to bear in mind, or we do have to mention, is that ByuN, kind of like BreakingGG, to be fair, has been a little bit careless with his ghosts. He has been bunching them up, so whenever fungals land, they're big fungals. Likewise, whenever EMPs land, they're also big EMPs. Just because the infestors are also bunched up. Oh. As it looks like we're keeping an eye on the economy here. BreakingGG doesn't have that base on the right-hand side for some reason, which is dangerous. Another EMP does land. Oof. Another good fungal as well. But we did snipe some of those Broodlords, just like that. Three Broodlords went down. As we keep trying to dance with the army. Oh, more Broodlords are falling. And over time, it does feel like ByuN has just been able to trade a little bit better. Ay. Oh my god. Yeah, we're bleeding out too much. Every time we poke in, we're losing Broodlord after Broodlord. And sure, we have a bank, but at the same time, we can't just waste it. Another EMP on all these infestors. 0 fungals available. Ay. Oh. And we're getting to that point where I want to say at this point, ByuN is probably stabilized. His bank isn't as large as his opponent, but he's getting another base. BreakingGG, he made the mistake of never mining from the top right despite having it for so long, and ByuN is long distance mining. He's about to establish another CC, and if he does, again, that's just access to so many more resources that he otherwise should have been denied. Yoinks come in, we get a couple of ghosts, we get a couple of Thors. Oh, a big fungal does connect, but where are the Broodlords? The Broodlords died. Okay, there we go. We have 6 more behind this, but the Broodlords, they should have been a part of this fight. They could have punished that fungal a little bit better. Yeah, it's just these slow, meticulous skirmishes, pickoffs here and there. ByuN still struggling when it comes to his gas count to keep remaxing. BreakingGG having a little bit more success. Now, it's one of those things where BreakingGG, he could rotate around to another portion of the map, but he has to commit. Another 2 Broodlords do get picked off, and here we go. We're rolling on him. We're getting on top of the Thors. We've had enough. We want to just aim on forward, and we're getting these Thors, actually. A lot of the ghosts go down. BreakingGG taking a pretty good fight overall, but oh, we have more ghosts behind this. We have more than enough ghosts, and we have to back off. We need to leave before the snipes come in, and I think it's too late. Oh, we do have a fungal at the last moment. Oh god, both players are bleeding out so heavily. And it looks like the Broodlords are all going to go down. 1 remains with barely any HP. And now BreakingGG has to make a choice that we can't see because we don't have a production tab. He has a bank, he can remax. What's he gonna remax with? He killed all the Thors, he killed a good chunk of ghosts. I would suggest a more mobile Ling Bane Hydra army. If he wants to, he can go back into Broodlords. They both have their place. We can see 36 Broodlords and 38 ghosts have died this game. Pretty comparable to each other. 1-to-1. BreakingGG, it looks like he's been skipping injects. He has a bank, he can't spend it. The lack of injects is actually killing BreakingGG. He has no lava right now. He cannot rebuild, he cannot remax. He can't spend his money. And this is getting out of hand. BreakingGG, he's being forced back once again. Fungal is going to keep him in this. He needs to protect this base. He cannot give up this hatchery. Like, over the course of this game, he's just been giving ByuN base after base, allowing him to expand. And if ByuN takes control of this area, that's another mining base. Oh, boy. Not like this, Papi. There's a couple of leagues they're trickling on in. Again, BreakingGG, he still has a massive bank, but he can't spend it. He needs larva. Ay. Barely. BreakingGG is holding on, just barely. Imagine if he could spend his money. Uh, I think he would have been able to shut this down. Final Broodlord falls. And it feels like BreakingGG is falling apart a little bit here. Every drone just went down on the right-hand side, so no mining on that hatchery whatsoever. McBain rolling on forward. And despite the better start here from BreakingGG, despite the fact that ByuN was up against the wall, up against the ropes, ByuN was able to persevere. Persevere slowly, take a fourth. Remember, there was a time this game where ByuN was struggling to hold on to his third. Eventually, he took his fourth, took his fifth, took his sixth, took his seventh, and now he has snowballed out of control. He's broken through BreakingGG. He's out of a bank. He has no minerals. Almost 0 minerals are left. Like, he has a good economy, but he has no bank remaining. And yeah, ByuN has done it. Straight up. Straight up, he has been able to outtrade his opponents. The efficiency of the Ghosts, the Thors, the tanks, the Liberators was just too much. Too much for BreakingGG to handle. He's going to roll in once again, but alas, won't be able to really find those connections that he desperately needed. And it's such a shame. I wish we had player cams as well, in a way, just to see certain reactions. Like, I'm curious how much this is going to phase BreakingGG, because it can't feel good. It can't feel good knowing that you were ahead, knowing that you were in a winning position against ByuN, but it's also near humanity, so it's very easy to turtle. It's very easy to turtle on this map, and ByuN made use of near humanity so well for himself. BreakingGG, he's on his last legs. These last Banelings are going to morph in, take down a couple of Hellbats. Alas, that is all that BreakingGG could do. Got a last Powerbomb as well. ByuN, quick to split, quick to avoid that splash damage. And yeah, he's done it. He breaks the, what is this, 2, 4, 5, 6th base. GG gets called, and ByuN fights back, putting a point on the board. Ooh. Wasn't easy though. It wasn't easy. I'll be honest. Again, BreakingGG, he was ahead. He was in a much more commanding position, but there were a couple of overextensions here and there. Remember the late Hive, late 3-3, late Adrenal. There was certain things that maybe it was nerves as well, because I can understand. I think we've all seen that before, where you're the underdog and you get ahead and you're winning. You're winning against a better player. You're winning against a more well-known player, and the nerves kick in. You start making mistakes. Certain things, like you forget about them. They do kind of slip by, and here we go. We're diving straight into the next game in the top right-hand corner for IG, BreakingGG. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner for Ancient Cistern, it is ByuN. Is there another event going on right now? I was really curious. Because there are no player cams, I wouldn't be surprised actually if maybe someone mentioned it in the chat. I'm pretty sure this is a replay cast. I'm pretty sure the reason why we don't have cams is because these games were actually played out earlier, which is why we just dove straight into game 2. Yeah, maybe one of the players wasn't available later on in the evening. But yeah, we're getting into this, and it looks like ByuN is going for another 2-racks, as to be expected. As to be expected. Now the question becomes, what's the follow-up going to be? You know, from this 2-racks, we saw last game ByuN did go into a 4-racks follow-up, which is very common, but not the only follow-up that ByuN can do. If he does think that he is the favorite player, though, like that is like his comfort build. It's his comfort zone, so we should be expecting that again for the second game. Oh. Here we go. Meanwhile, back at home, BreakingGG just going for a hatch gas pool as well. Nothing too crazy from our Invictus Gaming Zerg player. Is just going to be getting into his own opener. We'll see how he adjusts. If you remember, he went for almost a 2-on-1 response, where he went for a bit of a later Evo chamber for +1 carapace, which again is like the stock standard response to a 2-on-1. But because of that, like ByuN was hitting a little bit earlier, he was finding more damage, he was snowballing a little bit more out of control. His initial push did do a lot of damage with his 4-axe. Remember, he killed 4 queens, traded a lot with the lings, didn't get too many drone kills, but still made it worth it. As the first Reaper has arrived. For those wondering, the quote-unquote ByuN opener is a 2 racks on the low ground into 3 Reapers. We're not going mass Reaper or anything like that. You have the option to, as, a drone does get picked off. Already a lot of damage done here in the early game. Very nicely done here by ByuN, containing his opponent to 2 bases, and we have our transition. It's not a 4-axe. This is looking like either a 2-1-1 or a 3cc 2-1-1. We'll see how early he does throw down that 3rd CC. Meanwhile, the Reapers, they dive into the main base. Another drone goes down. Oof. Oh, that's also why we didn't have WCS Game Heart. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they played out these games and they didn't host the lobbies with Game Heart. We're piecing it together, Pop. Piecing it together. Oh. As that factory has now finished up. Again, my eyes are glued to that production tab, and there we go. Okay, it is going to be a 2-1-1 follow-up. So with this, we're going to be waiting for the medevacs. Medevacs is going to be popping out. The push is going to be a little bit later here from ByuN, hitting around the 5-minute mark. It's going to be hitting with stim, with combat shields, with 2 medevacs as well. And of course, this is a safer opener overall. There's a lot more maneuverability with it. You can, harass the main. You can hit the 3rd. You can deny creep. Oh, wait, I wonder what kind of variation of 2-1-1 this is going to be. I know ByuN, he plays around a lot with a 2-on-1 where he delays the medevacs, he goes for an add-on swap, and he goes for a Banshee first. Oh, he's doing it! Let's go! I'm glad. As soon as I was talking about ByuN and 2-on-1, it, my memory, triggered. I unlocked an inner node, and there it is. So, ByuN actually straight up killed Dark with this a couple of days ago. I think it was in Kung Fu Cup. It was heartbreaking. So the reason for this, the power behind this, I know I'm using a lot of jargon, and I'm saying 2-on-1 all this. So 2-on-1 is 2 Raxes, 1 factory, 1 starport. And the power behind that is that you typically go for a reactor on the factory, you go for an add-on swap, you make medevacs, and you move out across the map, and you can stim happily, freely, because you have your medevacs to support your army. Banshees are never used with this. Because of that, because BreakingGG should be able to piece this together, there are no spores. There shouldn't be any spores. So going for a Banshee first is actually big brain, because the likelihood of the Zerg player actually having anything to deal with this is pretty low. And this can do a surprising amount of damage. It straight up killed Dark the other day. Dark had 0 spores. He didn't have this Banshee killed 12 of Dark's drones. It was crazy. So yeah, this is something that ByuN he loves to mix this in. He does this as well against Protoss. Against Protoss, he's willing to delay his Raven to go for a Banshee first, just to backstab, just to do some damage. A very ByuN move. This time, though, it doesn't work out. We can see the Queens are in position. Thankfully for ByuN, he actually didn't get Cloak. He didn't invest into Cloak, so he only made the 1 Banshee just to be annoying, force a reaction. He didn't overcommit, and he's still moving out with his main force. But yeah, just a little bit of a fun fact, a tidbit for you about ByuN's play here. And of course, this did delay the medevacs. 2-on-1 usually hits at around the 5-minute mark. Here we are a minute later, so it's, oh my god, despite being a minute later, BreakingGG is woefully underprepared. His lanes will get us around, though, so he should be able to clean this up. The Banelings weren't done in time. A good amount of Banelings were denied, but ByuN is able to pick up, and again, threaten a drop into the main. And because these medevacs' army is so maneuverable, we shouldn't be losing too many Marines. Oh, 1 Marine does go down, unfortunately. So far, BreakingGG has been able to keep up with this. There's been no major damage done, no dead queens or drones. This hasn't gotten out of hand. Oh, as I say that. As I say that, the 4th base is going to be denied. It is going to be delayed here. ByuN looking to reinforce with his tank. There's not too much creep on the left-hand side. We have a lot of creep over towards the third. Very minimal creep here towards the fourth base. And ByuN, he recognizes that. He sees weakness. He smells weakness. He's going to be getting in position here with his push. He's got to be careful, though. Pushing up a ramp into these Banelings, but Baneling speed is nowhere near being done. Oh, that does look like a big oversight from BreakingGG. At this point, the Baneling speed should be well underway. Well, connection here does, or the Banelings do find a connection. We do get on top of the tank, but we bleed out so much. The Marines are getting out of hand. No Banelings are remaining, and that means that these Queens are exposed. 1, 2, 3 Queens go down. The Tumors, and we can even focus down the hatchery. The army is heavily overstimmed, but has the DPS to make this work. And yeah, that push did a surprising amount of damage. We killed Queens, we traded very efficiently against the Ling Bane, and we denied the fourth. Again, containing BreakingGG to 4 bases. Because of all the creep that was denied, that sets up for a second wave, a third wave. Like, the pushes just don't stop, and BreakingGG has very little breathing room just because he never got the creep set going. He was never able to. Another Queen goes down. More creep is going to be denied here. Baneling speed has now kicked in. Oh, and BreakingGG, it looks like he may have enough to clean this up. Decent connection here on the low ground. The tank, oh my god, surviving for so long, does finally go down. At least this time, BreakingGG does hold on to his fourth. It isn't cancelled. Oh, but there's another wave. You can see on the minimap. There's another wave coming. ByuN, he doesn't stop. He is not satisfied. He wants to kill that fourth. Double drop dives into the main base again, pulling apart the army of BreakingGG, forcing him to react, exposing that fourth. There are no overlords in position either. BreakingGG has very limited scouting information on that left-hand side of the map. We commit to the drop. We kill the Lings. Oh, this is getting out of hand. Again, BreakingGG, he's forced to react here. He's forced to commit so much of his army into his main. And here comes ByuN into the fourth. Can he focus down that hatchery? Medevacs are going down. The tanks are a little bit far back, but they're going to be able to support this. Well, they do focus down every single Baneling, and without Banelings, the Marines, they're getting out of hand. GG gets called. It's far too much, and ByuN will take the series 2-0, winning it for Shopify Rebellion. They take the 4-0 over Invictus Gaming, and they confirm their win here in this Team League match. But it's not over. If you're a fan of Scarlett, don't worry, don't fret. She's still going to play. XY versus Scarlett will still be played out for scores, for seeding, for overall point value. Obviously, Invictus Gaming, they won't be able to win this series, but XY can still fight back for himself, for his team, for some WTL points. GG, well played. Wait, was that Lemon? No, BreakingGG, on Korea, his ID is Lemon. It's not to be confused with the Taiwanese random player Lemon, who also plays Protoss and Terran. It's confusing though. Not gonna lie, it's very confusing, especially when you're casting like ESL Open Cup Asia and there are multiple Lemons in the lot or in the in-game chat, and you're trying to find a player. It's not got shaking my head. Shaking my head, Pop. These goddamn players. Regardless, we are getting into our third best of 2. Again, there's a lot less pressure on Scarlett this time, though. Like, there's a lot less pressure on her. Her team has already done the heavy lifting. Shopify have already won the series. Now Scarlett just has to clean things up here against XY. And it's going to be difficult because she's up against one of the only players out there with a 10 in mentality. Oh, let's go, Poppy. Let's go. XY, the king of the mental himself. Doesn't matter what you throw at him. He will be unfazed, undeterred, tenacious. A turtle. Let's go. So we're diving into this and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Gressvan. We have the Chinese Terran player representing Invictus Gaming, XY. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner for Shopify Rebellion from the land of Canada, it is Scarlett. Now, do we have cams? If we have cams, it's live. It's live! Let's go! So it looks like only ByuN versus BreakingGG was played by replays. Maybe it was because ByuN was awake early playing in the qualifiers for the Africa Champions Cup. Maybe that's why they played out their games earlier. But regardless, this last best of 2 will be played live. You love to see it. XY sipping on some tea. Everyone, don't forget to hydrate your hydras. They deserve it. Oh, the hydration. Let's go. As we have another ZVT before us. Speaking of. Okay, we're good. Let's get into this. And thankfully, we're going to have a much more standard opener. The ByuN opener, there are some Terran players that do it, like Special does it from time to time. Maru does it, because Maru and ByuN, they share builds quite often. And Clem has been known to do it as well. But it still isn't fully... I wouldn't say that 2-Rex on the low ground opener from ByuN, it's not fully mainstream yet. There are still players like Cure, for example, or Spirit that don't really dabble in that kind of quirky nature of ByuN's opener. It is kind of catching on, don't get me wrong, but it still hasn't been widespread amongst all the Terran pro gamers, and as a result, we do have a much more standard Rex expand instead. Much more standard opener here into this TVZ, which I'm okay with. I'm happy with this. Let's go. Let's play some StarCraft. No early aggressive shenanigans going on this time. Oh. As the first Reaper makes it across the map, is going to be dancing here with the Lings of Scarlett. Oh, has to be careful. Takes a lot of hits already. Gets eyes on the would-be third base. And XY is going to be going for a 3cc opener here. So very economic from XY. It is that 3rd CC before Banshee or before Starport. Very macro oriented, which is what we expect. XY, he is the king of mental. He has the mindset of the strong, if you will. And that means no cheats. That means macro, Poppy. Macro. If you cheese, you're just a weaker player. And that's not me talking, that's XY. Oh, God. I love XY so much. It wouldn't be a WTL without him. It's great that he and Invictus Gaming were able to be a part of this. Oh, as the Lings are actually wreaking quite a bit of havoc here. A lot of lost mining time. Oh, up! Can she get the SCV? Oh, not quite. SCV will survive, but again, those were 2 SCVs that were doing nothing for quite a large amount of time. Meanwhile, Roachborn is thrown down here for Scarlett. Oh boy. Oh my god, and I haven't seen this in a long time. It's not a 3cc Banshee. It's a 3cc BC. Oh my god, he's an animal. It's been months, Poppy. Like, the BC openers have fallen out of fashion heavily, but XY, he's bringing it back. This is going to be interesting. Okay. So we still have a first Banshee on the way, and the Banshee's crucial. The Banshee's crucial because he's up against Roaches, and a Roach push could get out of hand, especially if you go straight up for a BC opener. If you skip out on that Banshee, the Roaches arrive, and the BC takes too long to come out, the Terran player dies. The Terran player straight up dies, so thankfully XY is playing it out safe and still making that first Banshee. So he will have something to help defend, but the Roaches are on the way. Reaper goes in for a scout, sees the main base, sees the natural, and it does come across the Roach. Did he see? I think so. I think the Reaper may have seen the Roach. Did XY see the Roach? He has to, right? Yeah. We have a bunker on the way. Yeah, we're good. Bunker is on the way. Banshee should be moving out into the center of the map. Did he finish the Banshee or did he cancel it? That I'm not so sure about. He may have canceled the Banshee just to get straight into BC production, which would be worrisome. Meanwhile, the Observer is really focused on these SCVs. Yeah, get back to work. Get out of there. But after getting scouted, Scarlett is actually going to be respecting XY. She backs off instead. She doesn't commit to the push. Because the Roach Warren was seen ahead of time, Scarlett believes that, hey, if I move out now, it's probably going to be defended. It probably won't be worth it. I'm going to back off instead, work towards double Evo chambers, and saturate my bases instead. Meanwhile, the first BC has arrived. Those are factories on the way, by the way. XY is playing BC Mech, which again is very out of fashion right now. But I appreciate it. It's a blast from the past. BC has arrived. A couple of drones are going to be going down as well. The queens are being focused as we speak, but there are plenty of queens that were produced. And XY, he teleported across the map. He can't teleport back home. Uh-oh. This is a disastrous start as the BC up. It does not go down on 22 HP. The BC survives. Ooh. Oh boy. And suddenly that wasn't too bad. We got 4 drones, an overlord. That's okay. BC does make it out of there. And we have to talk about the mental state, right? We have to talk about what's happening right now, because the power behind BC Mech wasn't just what the BCs brought to the table. It was the mental attack as well, because, mate, Zerg players, they smoged like never before. God. It can be so depressing seeing like 1 or 2 BCs warp in, especially Gumiho. Remember Gumiho versus Serral? Proxy 2-port BC? Mate, that was... oh my god. That was brutal, mate. And hopefully... And Scarlett is very vocal about disliking Mech and playing against Mech. So it makes sense. It makes sense that XY would go for this kind of style against Scarlett specifically. But hopefully she's able to stand strong. I mean, we have a Spire on the way. The first BC didn't get out of control. She handled it very well for herself. We've got 1-1 kicking in. We have an Infestation Pit. So far, like, Scarlett, she's in a damn good position. I mean, look at the creep. The creep is more than halfway across the map. We're getting more bases. Again, the first BC could have been so much worse. It didn't snowball out of control, despite not being scattered. Scarlett, she had plenty of queens to respond anyway. And now that the Spire is done, Corruptors are on the way. So, yeah, we're handling this quite well here. XY is going to be moving out across the map. As a reminder, because he flew across the map, he will be able to teleport back home. So he's going to be coming in for some free damage, coming in to pick off whatever he can. We'll see if he can snipe some of these queens. Unfortunately, Yamato just now starts. Interesting. This is a late Yamato. If we're investing into BCs like this, and if we're going to continue BC production, typically we would have gotten Yamato earlier, but we prioritized 1-1 instead for the mech upgrades. Interesting. Meanwhile, because this is a slow style of mech, we're going to Swarm Hosts. For those wondering, if you're up against battle mech like Banshee, Hellion, Cyclone, for example, like Ferrari mech, it can be really difficult really making these Swarm Hosts work. Against a slower style of mech, like what we're seeing here, BC Tank, Swarm Hosts can actually do quite well for themselves. They can go for these like guerrilla tactics. They come in, get some damage, and they scuttle away and they get the hell out of there. Niduses aren't necessary. Niduses help, don't get me wrong, but like especially on a map like this, there are definitely angles that you can abuse and can make use of. Like harassing the center base from the low ground, harassing the third base from over the cliff face as well, which is what Scarlett is setting up for. Typically, you're vulnerable to a counterattack after a Locust Wave, but because this army is so immobile and so slow, I mean, we can get away with this. So we go. We have 1 tank going down already. The Corruptor is going to be threatening those BCs. Is this an overextension? It looks like... Oh, BC does teleport away in time. Red Ravager pushing forward. The tanks were not quite in position. And yeah, these Hellbats overextend as well. So far, a very efficient trade. The Corruptors try to chase down that BC. It looks like they won't be able to get it. We're going for the add-ons instead. I'm not too sure about this. We got a turret, and we threw away maybe 4 or 5 Corruptors. That was quite a hefty loss. We got value with the Roaches and the Corruptors, yes. I worry about the... Sorry, with the Roaches and the Swarm Hosts, I worry about the Corruptors. I don't think that was necessarily the best move for them. Regardless, second wave comes out. Another tank goes down. Again, a lot of value gone here from these Swarm Hosts. Hopefully we have enough anti-air to deal with these BCs. XY is on the cusp of maxing out, and that will trigger a counterattack. Here we go. Yamato is done. Because we lost so many Corruptors earlier, we actually don't have a lot of anti-air. A lot of Corruptors are going down. Well, thankfully, we have some reinforcements. I do worry, like, if these Corruptors all fall, then the BCs will have free reign of not just the Roach Ravager, but also the Swarm Hosts. You do have to take these BCs seriously. And there we go, 4 more Corruptors in production. Thankfully, we're not neglecting our anti-air. Locust Wave comes in, another tank goes down. Second tank goes down to the Biles. And very efficient trade so far here by Scarlett. Meanwhile, we have all of our upgrades kicking in. We're finally getting to Link Speed. Let's go. We did skip it earlier to go into the faster Roach Warren. Got +3 range on the way, +2 melee, bailing speed, +2 air attack. Oof. So far, so good. Taking towards Infestors would be ideal as well. Things like Neurals and Fungals, depending on what kind of mech army we're up against, can work wonders. And we actually do have a lot of Cyclones. It's really interesting. XY has actually switched his factory production into mass Cyclone instead of tanks. He wants to go for a more mobile army instead. Speaking of tanks, though, another couple of tanks go down. So this can be dangerous. I was talking about it earlier. Like, typically, Swarm Hosts are really good against a slower style of mech. And it looks like XY has recognized that. That's why he switched into Paddle Mech instead, which can do really well against all these Swarm Hosts, but thankfully Scarlett hasn't been neglecting her Roach Ravager army. Like, she still has an army on the ground to support a Swarm Host, but they're not ready yet. The Corruptors, they dive on in, and they get locked on immediately by these Cyclones. A lot of these Corruptors do go down. Locust Wave is going to be forcing back the army, but this Locust Wave doesn't get a lot of value. It just gives Scarlett time, doesn't trade with the army. And that means that these Swarm Hosts are going to be vulnerable here for the next push. XY just topping up his forces, just mass repairing as we speak. Getting ready for his next push. Corruptors looking for another angle. Cyclones are coming in once again, another big lock-on on these Corruptors. Roach Ravager, they're handling the Hellions for the time being, but oh god. Only 4 Corruptors remain. Bearing in mind, we have Yamato as well. The BCs are coming in. Okay, we do have the wave of reinforcements. We do have the Locust Wave as well, forcing XY back. This still feels on a knife's edge just because both armies are maxed at this point. Oh, the repairs just barely in time. Saves the planetary. Like, even though Scarlett has a bigger bank because she's been trading more efficiently, at least when it comes to minerals, this can still sway heavily in XY's favor if he takes a good fight. Yamato is once again going to be going off with the death of these Corruptors, the BCs. Yeah, they can rain down on the Zerg army. This is what I was concerned about. Oh. Okay, it's okay. He doesn't quite chase it. He will back off. It looks like the Biles were enough to deter these BCs. They were quite softened up. They did take a couple of Biles to the face. 10 more Corruptors are on the way. XY, he's going back into BC production. He knows. He knows the power of the BC. Another Locust Wave coming in. Again, and trying to get on top of even these Cyclones. And a good amount of Cyclones just went down, actually. XY plummeting in supply. I want to say he lost around 7 Cyclones. Oof. Once again, Scarlett just getting a lot of value out of her Locust Waves. SCV's going down. Base is being denied. Earlier, I was concerned because XY was maxed, but after that trade, like, he's not going to be moving out anytime soon. Scarlett has some breathing room. Here we go. Caustic spraying down this planetary. Forcing the Cyclones to reposition, and here comes the Ling Bane. Scarlett trying to lay a trap, trying to get on top of those Cyclones. Planetary will go down. The mineral line as well. Scarlett just out-positioning XY. Yeah, and this time we have more than enough in the air. XY is falling apart. He's being picked apart. 2 bases go down, 30 workers, and a lot of his army. Who needs spellcasters? I was like, yo, are we going to be able to do this without infestors? The answer is yes. As long as we have a good enough economy, apparently, we can pull this off. Just pulling XY left and right. Fighting so well. Now, we are taking up into a greater spire, so it looks like Scarlett is potentially getting ready for Broodlords. I don't know if we're going to end up in that direction, but, you know, the tech is available. Tech is there. As Scarlett rotates over towards the 3rd base, tank goes down, and this CC is looking so vulnerable. Another base is about to fall. Banelings, they zone away the Cyclones, and yeah, the orbital, it goes down. Again, every time Scarlett pushes in, a base falls. Like, initially, XY was doing such a great job at just defending and turtling, but over the course of this game, like, she's been able to just take advantage of these vulnerable positions, has been able to exploit them, and it's kind of a domino effect where once one base falls, then another, then another, then another. XY has been having a hard time remaxing, keeping up. And he has been on the back foot for the past couple of minutes. Now, he still has a decent army supply, so he can still be forced all in, which will be a scary moment. That's why Scarlett has to take this seriously. Like, she can't just A-move in. If she A-moves in, she's going to lose everything, and then XY will A-move as well. It's crazy. So you do have to be careful here. Like, this mech army still has a lot of potential. Oh, as the Banelings rolling in, once again, the Cyclones don't kite back. Oh. XY taking a lot of Banelings to the face, but the Yamatos go off. Another Link counterattack is going to be catching a Mineral Line. XY not taking a bad fight here, but Scarlett is remaxing behind this. She can afford to lose some Corruptors. She can afford to lose some Roaches. Oh, and another Mineral Line goes down. Not like this. XY, you can't afford to lose these workers. Take care of your boys, Papi. Take care. Poor SCVs. Shout out to these Swarm Hosts, by the way. I could be mistaken, but I don't believe Scarlett has been remaking these Swarm Hosts. I think these are like the original Locusts, or the original Swarm Hosts that did come out at the start of the game. Doing a great job of preserving them. I know a couple of them have died this game. I want to say like a good, like maybe 3 or 4. So maybe they have been replaced, maybe. Regardless, again, Scarlett just bouncing back and forth between these bases. Never allowing XY to get comfortable. Never allowing him to even expand towards the south. Here we go. Padsing Glands on the way. Let's go. As we can see, there it is. 6 Swarm Hosts have died this game. Not too many, to be honest. Only 6. Pretty good. XY, you need to take care of your workers like Scarlett takes care of her Swarm Hosts. Hey. It's another Locust Wave is coming in. Again, whatever we get here is just cash money at this point. Here we go. Infestors are on the way for those Fungals, for those Neurals. I don't believe we have Neural, to be fair, but Fungals nonetheless will help out, especially against all of these Cyclones. One good Fungal is all it takes. Just having a look at the resources lost tab there. But before the Fungals come in, it looks like one BC will fall. The bars will connect with those BCs as well. A lot of really good lock-ons do go off, though. Oof. And Scarlett has to be careful. She hasn't taken all of her gases. If we look at the minimap, there are actually some gas gases that haven't been taken. I'm curious as to how many she's mining right now, as she's running out of gas. So she's got to be careful. Not to trade too inefficiently here. Another Locust Wave comes in. Here comes the Ling Road Ravager. Though the Mules, they just arrived. The Mules are going to be focused down one after the other. We are going to be losing a lot of Ravagers here, but it looks like Scarlett wants to get rid of the Roach Ravager. Looks like she's intentionally just refining her army and going into Broodlord Infestor. But it's going to take time to actually make those Broodlords. It's going to take time to actually create this army. So XY takes the base, expands here towards the south. He's still in this. He is still in this. He didn't fall apart. He was being pulled apart, but he was able to pull himself back together. This space is still under threat, but at this point, it's not that important. I mean, there's only 3 mineral patches left. Like, this isn't... We don't want to be throwing away too much trying to save a base that's almost mined out, you know? This is the base that matters. Here we go. Scarlett just working on her bank once again. Rotating on over. Trying to find a better angle of attack. I would really love Broodlords right now, to be honest. Like, what's the answer to Broodlords? I mean, we all know the answer to every Zerg, every late game Zerg unit, Kappa. A Ghost, and XY is going pure mech. I mean, sure, BCs with Yamatos, they can target down Broodlords, sure. But that's what the infestors are meant to be for as well. I do think that right now a Broodlord switch can actually work quite well here for Scarlett. She's still working towards it though. Still working on 3-3. We have +3 air attack on the way as well. Like the late game army for Terran mech, or even regular Terran, I guess, is kind of tank ghost or mecha ghost. You do want to sprinkle ghosts in. They do provide and give so much support, not just with snipes, but also EMPs on the infestors, snipes on the Broodlords. Tank Thor Ghost is kind of the army you want in that situation. But XY, of course, still committed to the mass mech. I mean, without Broodlords, there isn't too much reason to invest too heavily into Ghosts. But unfortunately, he doesn't even have a Ghost Academy, so he can't really work towards that. As the southern base is going to be claimed, XY taking another base for himself. It's a little bit worrisome. XY isn't going to get starved out. Another Locust Wave is coming in. Yeah, getting a couple of workers here and there. Oh, the lock-ons are real. Looks like finally another 2 swarm hosts go down. Oh, and we do have Neural. When Neural some of these Thors and some of these tanks, is this worth it? Scarlett got 1 tank and 1 Thor for 2 infestors. That's the worrisome. That was like really, that was a little bit careless. Throwing those infestors away like that. She got some value, sure, but boy. Some more infestors are on the way. And there it is. I was kind of waiting for this moment. 10 Broodlords are in production. Now, as you can imagine, I do worry that we have a little bit too much supply in these siege units. I feel like the Broodlords are taking the role here of the of the Swarm Hosts. And we should probably get rid of these Swarm Hosts just so we can make sure we have enough to protect the Broodlords in supply and infestors as well as Corruptors. I do think that these Swarm Hosts, they've served their purpose. And we should be getting rid of them. And as I say that, they are going down. One after the other. I salute you, Swarm Hosts. You did a lot. they did so much this game. Oh my god. They were the MVPs for quite some time. But now only 3 Swarm Hosts remain, and again, we're not replacing them. Like, we're replacing them with the newer, better model, the Broodlord. As the base towards the top left is going to be denied, Broodlords are pushing on forward. Now we have to be very careful. We need to make sure we have something to support these Broodlords. It looks like there are Queens being brought to the front lines as well, so they're going to be able to transfuse, but we do need those infestors. Meanwhile, Scarlett's being pulled apart. This is the downside of a Broodlord army, is that it is very slow, it's very immobile, as opposed to these Cyclones as the base goes down. But it's okay because Scarlett catches the tanks. Oh my god. 2 tanks are going to be going down the southern base as well, but we are trading a base for a base right now. As the Cyclones, they're going to keep on hunting down these hatcheries. Oh boy. BCs, they're going for a run by as well. They do have teleport available. We have some Yamatos coming out. Oh, and hence the majority of the BCs are going to be able to teleport out of there. Scarlett's plummeting in supply right now. The base trade didn't work out too well in her favor. The planetary still isn't even dead, and she just lost 3 hatcheries and 35 drones. It felt like so much was going well for so long, but XY was able to eventually take those southern bases, eventually break free, take these expansions, mine, have a good economy. Oof. And it's these Cyclones. In one fell swoop, the Cyclone, that's a 4th base. 4 hatcheries just went down in like 30 seconds, in like a minute. The Cyclones just completely annihilated everything, and Scarlett just couldn't keep up. Again, she just didn't have a mobile enough army to do so. And that may just be it. That may just be game. This was such a back and forth. This was so crazy. XY, the mental of the strong. I'm worried. This is going to be a tilting game to lose. I'm worried a little bit for Scarlett. Oh no, not like this, Swaffy, not like this. Ugh. I mean, we have a lot of minerals, and we can remax on Massling. We're droning, we're retaking our bases. This isn't over yet. I'm worried about the gas. That's what my biggest concern is, the lack of gas right now. Because of that Scarlett, she can't replace these high-tech units like your Infestors, your Broodlords, your Corruptors. She can really only make Lings right now and drones. It's really important for her to retake these bases towards the north. If XY takes too long, if she can get these bases up and running, then she can remax. If she can get these gas geysers. And it looks like XY is focusing on the southern bases. So the northern hatcheries of Scarlett are going to be able to get back up and running. But for how much longer, right? So how long is it going to take XY to rotate over in that direction as the southern base is going to be going down? XY scans, he sees the Corruptors, he sees the Broodlords, and yeah, he's making his way north. Now, I think he may just be looking to push through the center. And the other scary thing right now is that XY does have a larger army. So Scarlett has to respect that she has to back off. XY, though, he isn't going north. So, yeah, these hatcheries are finishing. The gases are being taken. Now we just need time. We need time to regather as much gas as possible, to remax, to rebuild. Oh, boy. We're even long-distance mining at this point. Scarlett going for a Ling counterattack. He's going to find some value. BC teleports back home to defend. And yeah, this southern base is going to be cancelled. The drones are under threat as well. But again, it's we may be losing one of these fresh mining bases, which is hard to lose, don't get me wrong. But at least we get the northern bases fully operational at this point. Scarlett, you can see with that gas, she's remaxing. She is remaxing. A lot of that supply is in Lings, though. That's the problem. A lot of the supply is in Lings. 64 Lings here for Scarlett, which aren't the most useful unit at this stage of the game. They're okay, especially if we catch the army on siege. Then sure. Here we go. New ones are coming in. We do take control of some of those Thors, but the Yamatos go off. Fungo is going to help out at least a little bit, but the Thors are pushing on forward here. There aren't that many Broodlords. The Broodlords are being focused on one after the other. GG gets called, and XY, after almost 30 minutes, after being in a really rough position, oh, made the pop-up. After being in a really rough position, XY fights back and takes game one. Whew. GG. Remember, there was a time where he was struggling to hold on to 4 bases. Like, really. At around the 15-minute mark, he was struggling to hold on to 4 bases. The Swarm Hosts, the Locust Waves were all over the place. Scarlett was pulling XY apart. But he never gave up. And that is the power of the strong. The power of the strong. That is the mental of the strong, where he just did not give up, persisted, persevered, and did what Mech does best. He did what Mech does best, turtle on up. Not just that, I do think that it was a really wise choice to switch into Cyclones. We were talking about it at the time when he was up against all those Swarm Hosts. Again, we were talking about how they do really well against like Hellion BC Mech, or Hellion tank, I should say. But against a more mobile Cyclone heavy army, that's where they can struggle a little bit more, just because they can go for all these counterattacks. And I think that Scarlett transitioned into Broodlords maybe a little bit too soon. Against that many Cyclones, typically you want to be able to meet that mobility, right? With Lingbane, Road Ravager, with your Infestors, with Fungals as well. Broodlords, where they excel at breaking these tank lines. They excel at breaking these siege positions with tanks and with turrets, with planetaries. That's what they're for. That they're more of a sieging unit. And I think maybe Scarlett may have misidentified just the exact kind of composition that XY had, and how many Cyclones he had as well. Because of that, when she did make those Broodlords, that's when the base trade happened, basically. When the Broodlords were revealed, XY, he just immediately counterattacked, went across the map. There was nothing to stop him. There was nothing to keep up with him. And yeah, he got 4 bases. Crazy. Absolutely insane. GG, well played. Congratulations to XY for taking that first game. And this is crazy. Okay, it's loser's pick. The challenger picks. Scarlett is going for altitude. Mate, you thought Gresvan was a big map. Now, to be fair, Gresvan, because of the map layout, does lend towards those split map scenarios more. I think Gresvan is a really good map for mech. Altitude, not as much. Altitude is a lot more open. There's a lot more opportunities for fights in the bottom left-hand corner. For IG, it's XY. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Altitude for Shopify Rebellion, it is Scarlett. So Altitude is the largest map in the map pool, and you may think, because it's so big, because there are so many bases, is that good for mech? Kind of. This isn't the best map for it. There are some really good positions, don't get me wrong, but unlike Greswan, this map, like, the bases are so much more spread out, they're so much more further apart. Because of that, counterattacks and run-bys can do so much more. If we did end up going towards Swarm Host again, I do think that they can excel a lot more as well on a map like this. It can be really difficult to hold on to your fringe bases. It can be really difficult. It can be really easy to be spread too far thin as well. So I don't think this map is awful for mech, but it's not as good as Greswan, is what I would say. I do think Greswan definitely one of the better maps for mech in general. Despite that, though, I'm mainly talking about like a more defensive turtley style of mech. If we did go, say, Banshee Battle Mech, which is a style of mech that has become a little bit more popular in recent times. We've seen Clem do it, we've seen Maru do it, we've seen ByuN do it. Those are the names that come to mind. Going for this heavy Banshee into Cyclones, into Hellions, I do think that kind of more mobile army can actually work quite well on Altitude. And then you eventually kind of transition back into not BCs, but into tanks. But we'll see. Something to bear in mind is that XY isn't a one-trick pony. Just because he played mech once doesn't mean he can only play mech. He has played bio before. It's a great success. It's always a lot of fun to see him play bio, so that is something they can whip out. My money is still on mech though, but just bearing in mind that he can go for something a little bit different, as once again we can see the openers. XY is going for a 3cc opener before starport. Once again, very economic. Once again, this is the exact same opener that he went for on Greswan. This is the same opener. This is the same build so far. If you recall, he opened up with BCs, which is crazy. I should probably emphasize that as well. Like the fact that he brought back BCs, I'm sure that was a little bit jarring for Scarlett as well, just because at the competitive level, BCs have fallen off. Like we saw them have quite a long kind of time of dominance in the meta where everyone was going for BC openers. This was like, what, 2021 mainly, I want to say, even into 2022 to be fair, maybe the first half. But they did fall off over time. I do think that Zerg players, they became so good at like hard countering it and punishing it as well. So yeah, really interesting to see XY bring it back. Blast from the past. I never want to see it again. Well, as a Zerg player, I'm a little bit traumatized. As it is going to be a 3cc before Banshee. This time Banshees are being produced. This time there is no fusion core, so it looks like we aren't going to be seeing BCs. Oh. There we go. We're even investing into Cloak as well. Back across the map. Scarlett just getting her third base up and running, getting it saturated. Nothing too crazy. Everything's pretty standard so far from both players. No major tells one way or another. One lane does slip into the main base, gets a full scout, gets confirmation of the 3rd CC timing, gets confirmation of the Cloak on the way as well. Scarlett is fully aware of those Banshees, and oh! Am I crazy? I'm pretty sure we just cancelled Cloak. Okay. We cancel Cloak, we go for an add-on swap, we only make one Banshee, so we're not going to be committing here, and this is a great mind game. We can see Scarlett is throwing down spores, she's got a lair on the way, taking this very seriously, and XY completely switches gears. He doesn't just cancel Cloak and not make a second Banshee, he also is going for bio. We have 2 NG bays on the way, a couple of Raxes as well, Stim in production. Let's go. It is going to be bio, not mech, coming out from XY. Meanwhile, the first Banshee is going to be moving out across the map just to get some scouting information. We haven't taken additional gases. I was really curious because Muta play can actually work really well here. I mentioned earlier about how spread out these bases are. Because of that, it can be quite easy, or you can find a lot more value out of Mutas dancing between the bases. The ground army can have a really hard time keeping up with the Mutas as well. So that was a bit of a possibility, but as I mentioned earlier, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th gas weren't taken, so, you know, we're just playing this out standard. is just going to be Lingbane. Lingbane from Scarlett. Now she is taking some of her additional gases, but again, this is just to afford those upgrades, just to get into 1-1. Just a heavy Lingbane style from Scarlett. Now, this can lead into Lingbane into Hive Tech, into Ultras, or this can be a little bit more standard and go Lingbane into Hydras. We'll see depending on how the game turns out, depending on how aggressive XY is as well. On a map like this, I do think that going Lingbane into Ultra is definitely something that's viable. It can be difficult to pull that off on a smaller map, just because drop play can really punish you. But it is something that you can definitely bring to the table. As we do see Scarlett just getting her bases up and running. Again, the Queens are in position for the Banshee. Again, it was only one cloakless Banshee, so wasn't really doing too much. Hellions get fully surrounded as well. Good pick off here for Scarlett. This is going to mean that her creep is going to be going uncontested. I mean, her creep is already insane to begin with, and now without those Hellions, XY is going to have a harder time vying for map control. As those medevacs are still on the way. Back at home, working towards 2-2. These medevacs were actually heavily delayed as well. Because of that, yes, Scarlett has had so much freedom here. We may be working towards a bit of a stronger push instead. I love this. The tower's being knocked down, opening up the ability here to get the gold even. Oh no, the Ling! No! One Ling went down. Feels bad, man. You have like a group of 30 Lings, and you just happen to be the one Ling that the tower lands on. Smooch, Papi, smooch. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. As behind this, we have the Hydrogen. So it is going to be a little much more standard. Lingbane Hydra here from Scarlett. XY hasn't been too aggressive at all. And the reason for that is because he's building up towards one more solid push with his tanks, with 2-2, with his ByuN, with his Marines, with his Marauders. He's playing a little more defensive here initially. And this is a dangerous way to play, because basically what XY is doing is that he's like, all right, Zerg player, you can do whatever you want. And that's that's terrifying, you know? Like, Scarlett's been able to drone up to 87 very easily, very happily. 1-1 is about to kick in. Infestation Pit should be on the way momentarily as well, so we can work towards Hive Tech. We do see the Overseer diving into that main base. Are we 8-raxing? That's what I'm curious about. I don't think we are. We did take the gases at the 3rd, so I don't think XY is all in with this, but there is no 4th CC, so he's very committed at least. And if we don't see a 4th CC soon, then he essentially is all in. I think he might be 8-raxing. I have no control over the Observer. I can't. Can we cap the Raxes? That's fine, Bobby. Don't worry about it. As we do see quite a lot of the ByuN here going to be shaved off here. Bailing Rumbai is going to be set up as well, but you know, we are in position to defend against Scarlett. Should be just waiting for the Terran player to push onto creep before she attempts to swallow up this army. XY is going to be slow pushing across the map, slowly leapfrogging his tanks forward. This is what we've been kind of working up towards this entire game. As he pushes out, oh, we have a massive run by here at the 3rd base. The SCVs! Oh god, they came back one moment too soon. They are going to be saved. Only 5 workers do go down. Scarlett trying to create a lot of chaos, as much chaos as possible. What's important though is that the tanks survived. 3-3 is on the way. Yep, no 4th base. Like, this is... From XY, it's basically a 3-base all-in. This is the one push to end them all. As he is slowly gaining ground. Emphasis on the slowly. Infestation Pit's on the way as we speak for Scarlett. Oh, and here we go. She's trying to catch these tanks on siege, and for a moment they were. We do have a surround, but the ByuN army is in position here to shut down these Hydras. I want to say 2 or 3 tanks went down. That may have been worth it. Again, Scarlett has a solid economy behind this. She can afford to lose some units here. XY can't. There's no 4th base. Like, again, every tank that goes down, he's having a hard time replacing it. He needs the momentum. He needs that staying power. As he is now reached more than halfway across the map, is going to start laying siege upon some of these bases. These Marines are very adventurous. Have to be careful not to be caught out. But again, the tanks are slow pushing forward. Creep is receding. Scarlett looking to catch some of these reinforcements, and she's going to be able to get them. Marines, a couple of tanks going to be going down. A massive pickoff here for Scarlett. XY a little bit too careless with his rally. And as a result, his army across the map is left on their own. There's nothing else there. Is that the main being floated over? I think it is. Yeah, that's the main base of XY floating over towards the fort. Again, just very all in. Oh, but Scarlett has the 360 surround. She comes in from behind. She comes in from the side and from the front as well. The Bailings, they find their connections, and she swallows up the army of XY. This just took too long moving out across the map, and that's why I'm really perplexed about the 8 racks. I do think that on a map as large as Altitude, we saw it took a long time to really push out. Like he was gaining ground, don't get me wrong, but it took minutes here to eventually get to the side of Scarlett to actually lay siege upon her own bases, and he didn't even really get there. And even then, Scarlett can afford to throw away a hatchery. She has so many more behind it. And now XY is in a really awkward position. He's on 3 bases. Again, this is his main that he floated over. Here we go. Scarlett is looking to lay siege upon this as well. The Bailings are rolling on in. They're trying to connect with the Marines. It looks like they will. Oof. Big connections on the Bio army. The main base under threat. We have the repair, but we have Bailings. No! Oh. The SCVs are going to be going down. And again, Scarlett may have lost a lot of her army, but she can rebuild. She can remax. Hive is done. Vipers are on the way. And XY doesn't have enough of an army to really like stage a counterattack. He's gonna try to because he has to. I mean, he can't just stay at home. He has a lot of army supply, to be fair. He's got 92 to the 109 of Scarlett. Oh, but he can't be caught unsieged. Oof. He does force back the army. Now, what's terrifying is that this time, for the second wave, Scarlett has Vipers. I almost said Infestors. She has Vipers. She has Blinding Clouds. If these tanks bunch up, oh, and they're kind of bunched up, I do think that 2 Blinding Clouds will cover this. Scarlett will shut this down. The Vipers, I think they're currently gathering energy as we speak. I want to say she has at least 2 Vipers. Once again, that hatchery is under threat. It's going to be going, or it could go down. And again, we can afford to, or Scarlett can afford to lose that hatchery. XY, he's got a big, beefy army, though. He's got a lot of supply committed to this push. And here we go. Once again, Scott is coming in, trying to go first round. There are those Blinding Clouds on every single tank. And it looks like Scarlett does have enough to break on through. GG gets called. Whew, with a bit of a sigh of relief there towards the end. And Scarlett does take game number 2. Whew, going for a tied-up series 1-1. GG. GG, well played. Again, a really interesting choice by XY. Part of me wants to criticize his choice of build on Altitude, but at the same time, like that was a pretty terrifying army, right? Like every time he did push out, the 2 times that he pushed out, like he was gaining ground, like it was quite an imposing force. But because it's Altitude, the surrounds are so much more easier to pull off. That's the problem, right? Like we saw time and time again, whenever Scarlett